My name is Nancy Harkins. I'm a member of the steering committee, and I'm going to be facilitating tonight's meeting. We're going to start by going around and having people introduce themselves. I just want to remind everyone, this is our first time in this room, so please bear with us. When we have people presenting on the agenda, we're going to ask them to sit over here because this is the best angle for the camera. And I just want to remind everybody to use a microphone when you're speaking so people online can hear you. It doesn't amplify in the room, but we do have people online and the meeting is being recorded. So we want to make sure we capture that. Okay, so Nick, you want to start?
Sure. We need to pull that close, or are we good? Are we good on microphone, Charlie? If we just leave it in the middle?
You should pull it out, just stick it to it, or just bring the whole thing out.
Howdy, folks. I'm Nick Anderson. Cool. I'm from Champlain College here. Look after properties and buildings and things. So I'm your host for the evening. I want to just give a little heads up on if there is an emergency, exits are that way down the hall where you came, but there's also another exit at the other end here. They both involve stairs. If you have mobility challenges or want to get out to flat ground, take a left if we get out the door. There's also 2 restrooms down the end here in the main lobby and water as well with the drinking fountain. So everything should be that way.
My name is Peter Keating. I'm here to speak about the Burlington Walk Bike Council.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hernandez-Tim. I'm with the Burlington Police Department. I am the Public Information and Community Engagement Officer.
Hi, my name is Dwayne Mellis. I'm a sergeant with the Burlington Police Department. I am currently assigned to patrol.
And I'm Shannon Trammell, the Executive Manager of Burlington Police Department.
I'm Mary Gady. I'm a visitor from across the street.
Robin Lloyd. I live right down on Maple Street.
With Charlie and
sorry. Yeah. Yes, hello. I'm Robin Lloyd. I live here on Maple Street and have been active promoting apartheid-free Burlington, which is related to advocating for a ceasefire in Israel-Palestine.
I don't want to skip Charlie and Fosca.
So I'm Charlie G. I work for Town Meeting Television. Thank you.
I'm Fosca. I work with the CEDO at the City of Burlington, and I am the liaison for the NPAs.
And we have City Councilor Becca Brown McKnight on the line. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm here. I'm Becca Brown McKnight. I am the counselor for Ward 6.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Joan Shannon, and I am the South District Counselor, which is Wards 5 and 6.
I'm Dale Azaria, and I'm on the NPA Steering Committee.
My name is Sheila Jacobs, and my family owns a property at 237 Maple Street. We're interested in the conversation at 7:30.
Okay, we have a lot of announcements tonight. I want to remind people to sign the attendance sheet, please, that's going around. This is our last meeting. So we'll be sending out an agenda in August for the September meeting. But we won't be here in July and August. We are looking at the possibility of working with the other wards on coordinating a candidate forum for the primary in August. More to come on that, but there already is a candidate forum scheduled on Town Meeting TV for Monday, July 15th at 5:20 p.m. So you might want to check that out. And also you may have seen the announcement that the mayor is scheduling community talks throughout Burlington. The one for the South End is scheduled on the third Wednesday of the month. It will be at zero gravity. And along the lines of the primary, there is a need for poll workers for the primary election because it's taking place in the summer, and a lot of people who normally work the polls are not available in the summer. So that's something you might want to check out if that's something you're able to do. Are there any other announcements? Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Dale Azari again. I just wanted to announce that I am a candidate for the Vermont House of Representatives for the southern part of Burlington, which encompasses much of Ward 6 and almost all of Ward 5. And so I'll be at that forum that Nancy mentioned in July and would be delighted to talk to any of you about any issues or concerns you have or anything you want to know about me. Thank you.
Okay.
Say your name out loud again.
Sure. It's Dale, D-A-L-E, Azaria, A-Z-A-R-I-A. And hopefully by tomorrow I'll have a website, but I don't yet.
Okay. If there are no other announcements, then we will turn it over to our city councilors.
Becca, do you want to start first with the budget and encampments?
Yes, sure. But whenever I talk, I get a really bad echo. Do you guys get that?
You sound good to us.
Okay. I'm going to try to ignore it, but I'll probably sound a little distracted because I'm hearing myself.
Right.
So we have had two real priority topics that we've been working on in the council lately in collaboration with the mayor's office. And the first of those is the city budget. And there are many, many details that go behind this, but to keep it straightforward, I'll just share that we have been pushing and advocating for a budget that addresses our public safety needs even further than the initial drafts that we've seen from the mayor's office. We're really focused on staffing the key positions that sort of touch public safety directly within the police department, within the Department of Permitting and Inspections, and within the fire department. So we've been working hard on that. And happy to answer more detailed questions. We also, of course, are keeping in mind, wanting to deliver a budget that is affordable for Burlington and is kind of shares where the tax burden is shared equitably. And then on the encampment policy, you may have seen some news on encampments, and certainly it's a topic that comes up more often in the summer months. We have also been working with the mayor's office to provide feedback on her initial plans. And again, I'll keep the details light, but we want to make sure that any city sanctioned encampment, either support or services that are provided, are done so with really kind of eyes wide open to any safety challenges that we can expect to arise in encampments, both for the people living there and for the people nearby. And we also are, many of us, myself included, are, I wish that we could say that encampments are not allowed anywhere, anytime, and that we could find dignified housing for everyone that needs it. But we also need to sort of temper our expectations in light of the lack of support that we have at the state level to deal with this crisis. So we're balancing all of that and trying to navigate the way forward. And I've been personally calling the governor's office to ask for more help from the state level. And, we're in touch with our state representatives and our state senators, although the session is now closed. So we'll need to kind of work with what we have for the remainder of the summer season. But I think you can expect to, let's see, I think that the encampment policy will be on the agenda for the city council meeting this coming Monday. And so if that's a topic that's important to you, I encourage you to attend and share your comment in public comment, or to email me or Joan, or if you happen to have a different counselor, email that person and share your feedback ahead of time, or email the mayor's office directly. I think that covers it, Joan. I can turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Or yeah, I guess we'll take questions at the end. Does that sound good?
Yeah. So I wanted to cover two topics, some issues around safety, as well as some zoning issues. So you probably have all heard about the police chase and the accident, the fatal accident at the end of that chase in Colchester, which started here in Burlington. And that these folks who were trying to elude the police, had been quite active in our community. And kind of related to that, some neighbors were requesting to meet with the police chief. And what Becca and myself and Ben Travers decided to coordinate, because there are so many there's so many neighborhoods that are experiencing a variety of crimes right now, and a feeling of unsafety. We thought it would be a better use of time, and also more informative, if we did a broader kind of meeting for the South End with the chief, so he could kind of inform us as to how can we partner better with the police department? How should we report what we see? What should we expect? Because sometimes when we report things, we're really not sure if it's going where it needs to go. And so the chief has agreed to this meeting. We haven't yet determined a date, but it's most likely going to be a morning meeting. It'll probably be 8:00 in the morning, and we're still fine-tuning the date, but we will post on Front Porch Forum, and you'll hear more about that. Also, thank you to Sarah for her communication about, some of you may have also heard about joint BPD BHS Yes program. I don't want to call it an incident, because it was all planned, but some people are unhappy about what happened in this program with an enactment of a crime. And it was reported in 7 days. And before you pass too much judgment, I suggest you read the police press release on that, because there is more information about what really happened there. And I found it very informative. And I think people are very rightfully concerned based on what they read in 7 days and on social media. And I appreciate your explanation. On the zoning side, there's been a lot of concern about secondary structures in the neighborhood code and where they're allowed, and density and changes in zoning and all of that. The council sent that particular issue of neighborhood code back to the Planning Commission, and their next meeting is going to be Tuesday. I think that they're still discussing the secondary structure, so I invite you to engage with the Planning Commission on that. And maybe if the NPA feels that there's interest in that, even as far out as September, it might be worth inviting Andy Montrell, who's the chair of the Planning Commission, to come talk to the NPA about that. And we kind of have until October to make changes to what we initially proposed with the secondary structures. So you wouldn't want to do it any later than September. And also at that point, probably city councilors can speak to it too. And lastly, condo conversion. Becca and I and Ben co-sponsored a change in our ordinance, which will allow apartments to convert to owner-occupied condos. And there are details to be worked out on that. Burlington, at this point in time, it's very, very hard to create a condo here because we don't allow apartments to convert to we allow condos to convert to condominiums or apartments to convert to condominiums. We just make it so completely unattractive. Very, very few people would want to do it. There's a big tax on doing it. You have to give tenants 4 years notice. And so we want to find a way to make it, condos, this type of condo ownership can be very affordable to people in an environment where there is nothing affordable, and it can stabilize a family's finances. So we're going to be working on the details of that. We'd love to be able to find a source of money so that tenants might be able to buy their own apartments. And that process will be in the ordinance committee starting in July. That's my report. We can take questions. There's also a lot of other stuff going on that you might have questions about. Yeah. Will?
Do I have to use the mic?
Yeah, you got.
No, I don't have a problem using it. I just wanted to ask. Hello. I had a couple of questions. The first one was, well, for either counselor. Well, thanks for being here. Counselor Brown McKnight, you had alluded to, with regard to the budget, conversations or discussions taking place surrounding the revenue side and tax equity. I was just wondering if you could elaborate that on a little bit, maybe about like any proposals that might be underway, any such tax reform proposals that you might be supporting. And admittedly, if I've missed this, not having watched the city council meetings, I apologize, but something I'm curious about. I know a lot of folks here in the Hill section are as well.
Yeah, I can take that question. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the quick answer is that there's not during the budget process, we're not going to be doing any tax reforming of taxes or introducing entirely new tax policies. I think that it's a fast process for the new, the budgeting process really led by the mayor's office. And so with just 2 months kind of under her belt, I think our mayor it just didn't make sense to tackle it in that way. What I meant was that the proposal in front of us is a combination, is when we're talking about the new revenues being raised, and there are all kinds of revenues that go into our budget, but to keep it simple, the new ones being proposed this year were the public safety tax, which is an additional 3-cent property tax that was approved on the ballot in March, as well as, so the proposal is to use 2 of those 3 cents, as well as to use what's called a gross receipts tax, which is a tax on restaurants, bars, and hotels. And that is kind of what I was referring to. We're looking at trying to balance, on the one hand, the voters approved a 3-cent tax coming from property taxes. On the other hand, we like that I think it was a good idea that Mayor Mulvaney Stanek proposed for some of the city revenues to come from a gross receipts tax, which is really a consumption tax. So that's spread against people who are already making the decision to shop, or perhaps tourists and visitors into the town. It's just a matter of where all of that money is going and finding the right balance. Is the right balance a 2-cent property tax and a 0.5 cent gross receipts tax, or is it another combination of those taxes? And importantly, does raising that revenue give us the public safety results that folks were expecting when they voted to approve the 3-cent tax? So that's kind of the thinking that's going on, at least for me. And then whether something like tackling major tax reform, I think will come in the coming years and year-end months.
Thank you. Can I ask another quick question? I was wondering if there's any update, and admittedly, again, if this has come from the city council, I apologize, but I'm really interested, and I know a lot of folks, again, here in Ward 6 are about Memorial Auditorium and the project that's happening there. I know a lot of us, including myself, are going to want to comment during this process about trying to maintain some kind of community center public there. Has there been any movement on the process for approving the redevelopment there?
We have not had any update on that, other than we're aware that the mayor had some conversation with the developer. We don't actually know what it was. But I think that that's because the mayor has been, focused really on developing her team, figuring out the ropes in the mayor's office and developing a budget on very short order. So I don't think the focus has been there for good reason at this point. The one thing I will add to what Becca said about the taxes is that when we levy a property tax, we know what the yield from that will be because our property taxes are a very stable tax source. When we levy a gross receipts tax, that's much more variable, and it's very dependent on us creating an environment here in Burlington that, where tourists want to come, where shoppers want to shop, and diners want to eat. And so I think that it in some ways, it creates a real interconnection between public safety and our ability to get the yield from this tax that we are expecting.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we have no questions online, Bosco? Yeah. Okay. Thank you both to Councilor and to Councilor Brown McKnight. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you all, and I apologize for cutting out, but I have a very long drive ahead of me because I'd really like to hear the other presentations, but I'm gonna have to watch the reruns.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
So next up is we had several speakers based on topics that have come up in previous meetings around traffic safety, pedestrian safety. And so if the speakers on the agenda could move over to our presenter table, that would be great. I do want to mention that we had, it is on the agenda, we had included several people from Burlington Public Works to talk about their aspect of traffic safety, and they're not here. We'll go ahead and.
Sarah's behind.
Oh. We don't want to put her there. Well, I certainly am no traffic safety expert, so I did bring Sergeant Mellis with us. He is. And I realize that there perhaps were some questions. I'm not sure that we know exactly. If you have questions for us, or I can let Sergeant Mellis kind of talk about traffic enforcement in general and what our objective is and, that sort of thing. Or if there were specific questions, I think we're happy to take those also.
I think based on the discussion we had. It's hard to remember to do. Based on the discussion from previous meetings, the questions were around enforcement because, speaking for myself, I see people who are exceeding the speed limit significantly. And the perception is that it's dangerous for pedestrians and bikers.
Yes, thank you for the question, or your concern. So pertaining to traffic safety, I personally thinking it's important, and as a result, I've made myself available on my days off and to include extending my work days to make sure I put some effort into enforcing the traffic laws throughout the city. I have different areas that I would target, one of which is the southern part of the city. I know that Shelburne Street has been a problem for a very long time. Recently, we were one of our citizens voiced concerns about an area of Prospect Parkway and Crescent Road. I happen to be on my vacation. I'm still on vacation technically, and my days off. So I did receive an email from the chief pertaining to the matter, and I know it's a very serious thing, especially in a neighborhood where, to be honest, no one should be speeding in these areas, especially running stop signs when there are a lot of kids going to schools, especially in that area where there's multiple schools, children walking by with their parents in the morning. So I took it upon myself Monday morning. First thing Monday morning, I went out and I got engaged with the community pertaining to the violations that were taking place. And I did witness a lot of people committing the violations, running the stop signs, cell phone usage, because, you never know who's going to pull out, whatever is going on. So as a result, I did ticket people pertaining to those violations. I did give warnings as well, but my focus was to enforce those violations, to bring the attention to the fact that we should be paying attention when we're driving. Pertaining to traffic safety, everyone's is aware of the manpower at the police department, so it's hard for an officer to be dedicated to traffic. Hence why I've made it a point to extend my hours, 16 hours a day sometimes, just to make sure I spend some time. If you drive throughout the city, you'll see me on the side of the road, stopping the car. It's most likely going to be me. It's a state funded program. Everyone's familiar with the SHARP program. I'm basically the person.
Not familiar.
It's a governor highway safety program, and we different towns are involved. You could say pretty much the majority of the Chittenden County departments are involved. I'm sure you guys may have seen the Click It or Ticket campaign that was sent out by the Sheriff's Department. I was the person in the middle for the 3 motorcycles. So I use both police cars and the police motorcycle, because the police motorcycle, you're able to get around much easier and you see a lot more. And like I said, I've made it a personal plan to do as much as I possibly can for the city to make it a safer place. Again, it's just not ideal to have someone assigned every day to do it, but I make it a point to go out and do as much as I can.
Sergeant, is there any opportunity to use technology? I mean, I know that costs money too, but cameras, I know that's very controversial,
Yeah.
but even the signs that tell you, there is one on Shelburne,
Right.
telling you what
Your speed, yes.
Yeah. Is that effective? Is that something that's considered?
So based on my experience, I think a lot of people see those signs, and after a while they get used to seeing the signs. So it doesn't really, in my opinion, it doesn't really affect the driver. But the mere fact that there's someone present that will actually stop you and address the issue, I think people are more likely to react to that. Like an example of the enforcement I did in the southern part of the city in the Monday and Tuesday. One of the individuals I stopped, I watched that person come to a complete stop at the stop sign. I was there for a second. Everyone talks about the Mississippi count. I mean, I guarantee you there was some counting there. So I was very happy to see that. And several citizens within the area. They came up and they told me, thank you for being out here. And I do think that if we're able to go out and enforce the laws, we will bring some kind of I don't want to use the word control, but bring some kind of the sense of safety back. I'm thinking whatever suggestions you guys have, like problem areas, I will put that on the list that I will personally go out and try to help in those situations and enforce our traffic laws to bring people's attention to the safety.
What would be the best way for us to communicate?
I think for ease, it's probably I think my email is probably the easiest, and then I can get with the Deputy Chief of Operations and with Sergeant Mellis to kind of add those to the list, is probably the easiest way. But I do think that I need to recognize that speed is an issue, and that we definitely want to be able to address it all, but there is lots of neighborhoods are addressing the same issue as well, and so it is important that we spread Sergeant Mellis out as much as we can.
Oh. Thank you for letting me know.
Counselor Brown McKnight, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for being here and for doing all this work on your days off and after hours. I mean, that's incredible. And I wish you didn't have to do that and that we were properly staffed, but I'm really grateful that you're out there doing that. And I was curious, I'm sorry, it's a little hard for me to see, and I don't think I've met you, but are you Shannon sitting next to the officer?
I am.
Okay, great. Could you just say your email so people know, exactly how to contact you?
Sure. It's strammell, so STRAMMELL at BPDVT. They couldn't make that any more harder. .org.
Great. And then just one last question. I was curious if the police department has sort of I don't know if the right word is a policy or a protocol or an opinion on the idea of installing more traffic cameras throughout the city. Or do you all think that would, I know it's a controversial topic. It's not something I'm super well versed on, but I think it's worthy of consideration. Do you have a perspective on that? Is that something that you would advocate for or not? Because as the officer said, it's more effective to do an in-person stop.
There needs to be more research pertaining to the topic. And I think the community's input will be very impactful if something like that should be explored. It also, I would say the infrastructure just to put that all together would be, like, as you mentioned, costly. So it's other cities are doing it. Larger cities are doing cameras. I know I have relatives in Canada would tell me about the camera system they have there, and they're very sophisticated and stuff. But I think cost-wise, I don't know the figures, but it would be something that would cost some money. But I'm not sure how effective it would work for the city.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry for being late, Chapin Spencer, Director of Public
Can-
Works.
Chapin, come join us up here, Chapin.
All right, I will come join up here.
Yeah, come on up here. Oh, let me switch you. Let me scoot you this way over here.
Can I borrow a chair?
Oh, we have
Yeah,
one right here.
Here. Oh, look at that. We got a chair for me. Thanks, Sergeant. Yes, Counselor McKnight, I would say that it would be a great opportunity if the council was interested in pursuing this technology to have a resolution to have a working group set up to explore this. I think there is receptivity among different departments, but there are certain questions about privacy and protocols that would need to be addressed before we implemented it. I do think that it would pay for itself rather quickly, but it's a decision the community should make with their eyes wide open about what it means and how it's going to be managed. So I'm open to the conversation and would welcome the council, maybe refer it to the Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee of the City Council.
Thank you so much. I love ideas for resolutions that we can bring forward. So I know you know what you're talking about that when it comes to that, Chapin. So that's a great idea. I'll look into it.
Howdy. Yeah, and I was just going to say, I'm from New Zealand. We've had speed cameras my entire life. Like, I have not lived where there hasn't been a speed camera. And the beauty that they do in New Zealand is that they're fixed cameras in certain places. And there's probably in my one town, which is 40,000 person town, probably similar Burlington size, there's like 30 fixed cameras, but there's only like 5 actual cameras. And so you never know if there's actually a camera in the box or not until you get a yellow flash. But so like just the concept of them being there is what makes everyone slow down. The potential that you might get a speeding ticket, but the actual capital investment on the cameras and the constant replacement of the cameras is actually pretty low because you don't have a heck of a lot of them. So it definitely works really well. Like, people just don't speed because there's no point. You're going to get caught by a robot.
Yes.
I have a kind of just related question, because is there a camera at the intersection of North and South Prospect Street and Pearl Street and Colchester Avenue? Because it sure looks like there's a camera up there.
There's a
I
difference.
was going to say,
between-
I don't know every camera that this city has, but there definitely is a difference between like a safety type camera and one that's a speed registered to issue you a ticket camera. So yes.
A lot of the things
we are.
Yeah, I was going to say
We are moving away from the loops, which were in pavement, to video detection. Video detection is where it's at. The new video detection, we're putting at intersections that don't record anything. So there's no issue with being able to see things or have privacy concerns. But the new cameras are detecting not only vehicles, but also bikes and pedestrians. So it's intersections able to get counts of how many vehicles and how many bikes and how many pedestrians went through.
Did those also trigger some of your signals?
That's what they're there for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So can't use those for enforcement, but.
So I'm not sure if this is who this is a question for, but the roundabout in the south end, how is you know my question is going to be?
No, but it's with the roundabout, you're talking to the right guy.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how is that performing in terms of speed, monitoring speed? Because I think in particular, I think it's South Willard. I think on the other streets, people tend to be more moderate in their traffic, but somehow they can just shoot out Willard Street.
Right. Believe it or not, in transportation world, we usually take years to evaluate trends in traffic. We have been doing speed and volume data. I am more knowledgeable about the volume data than the speed data, but if you follow up with me, we can talk. Volume data has been below what was projected at that intersection, and it has been performing better than was expected. Fewer queue lengths. We are seeing queues, however, with the Champlain Parkway. Now Pine Street is largely closed southbound during the day, which is putting more traffic onto St. Paul and Shelburne Street, which is causing backups. But under normal condition, the roundabout is operating well. Doesn't mean that there aren't still traffic calming efforts needed. I would say that it is doing a better job of calming traffic than what was there previously. The informal circulator that was there. If there are still observed kind of situations that need to be managed, please let us know. We do have over 50 streets asking for traffic calming right now, and we have enough money to fund one per year. So East Avenue is the one getting traffic calming this year. So I know those numbers don't sound great. What we are looking at, though, is more tactical installations. Moving curb is expensive. You got to manage drainage and everything else. Civil site work, you manage soils. We're looking at, can we do seasonal installations of more temporary speed humps in areas where people are noticing a speed condition, but that we can't get to a large civil project for many years. So hope to have more information on that in the coming month. Pushing my team to get a quick implementation there, as I know there's many communities looking for response from us.
And getting back to the roundabout, Chapin, is there any crash data yet on it? Is it too early to tell to compare to the previous intersection?
Right. We usually like to have 3 years of crash data minimally to notice trends. That said, we can look at the first year of operation. I don't have it on the top of my head. The nice thing about roundabouts is while there may still be crashes, they're usually less severe because they're not head on, they're side swipes, and they're at a slower speed.
Chapin, do you know if there's a standard of when you have a speed limit sign? The speed limit when you come out of the roundabout going up South Willard is right there at the roundabout when you're kind of busy doing stuff. And I'm curious whether or not moving that 25 mph sign 100 yards up the road might be kind of a reminder of like, oh, I'm off this 30 mph road now, which is Sheldon Street for a half of it. Oh, this is a different speed limit now. I think it hits you too quickly and you probably don't notice it.
You're hired, Nick. I'll follow up on that. It's a good suggestion.
Peter, do you have anything else from a walk bike perspective to add?
Well, let me talk about the Walk Bike Council. That's why I'm here. First of all, I wanted to ask if people here have ever heard of the Burlington Walk Bike Council. It's kind of an opportunity to do a few. Well, Chip and I expect them to go. Anyway, the organization I think has been around for probably a decade, and maybe Chip, maybe it's longer. I don't know. Essentially, it's just a group of citizen volunteers to provide advice to the city of Burlington on issues related to walking and biking. The committee meets monthly. They meet at DPW. They're staffed by DPW staff. And Phil Peterson is the current staff person at DPW that works for the Walk Bike Council. And they're there to, encourage involvement of other folks like citizens to come to the meetings and talk about what they are interested in relating to walking and biking. To give you some idea of what they've been discussing over the last 6 months to a year, I looked at a whole bunch of agendas. Some ideas were discussions with DPW about how can they perhaps quicken the implementation of traffic calming, and Chapin talked about this and how there are 50 requests and they can only fund one a year. I know it's sort of an issue of interest with the people who walk and bike. If we could invest those things much more quickly, it would be really appreciated, but there are budget constraints, we realize. Some other issues discussed at recent meetings include Battery Street. There's currently a study looking at Battery Street on the Burlington waterfront, what might happen to that corridor over the next decade plus. And so the committee made some input on walking and biking improvements and safety improvements that could happen there. Another project is the replacement of the bridge that connects Burlington to Winooski. The projects have been looked at for quite a few years now, but is actually moving forward pretty quickly and may be under construction in the next 2 years. The Walk Bike Council provided a bunch of input to the design team and how it could be better functioning from a walking and biking perspective. So those are some of the examples of what they discuss on a monthly basis. I would encourage anybody interested in these issues to consider going to their meetings. They're always the first Wednesday of the month at the Department of Public Works, and they're always interested in hearing the viewpoints of more people who could come. There are good online resources. There is a Walk Bike Council website. Doesn't have a lot of content now, but has a great link to the agenda and minutes of previous meetings. If you're, I think it's burlingtonwalkbike.org. But DPW has a page on their site for the Walk Bike Council as well, with a lot of information there.
Any other questions? Anyone online?
Nancy, may I? So, Peter, I just would like to ask, based on what you heard this evening, do you have anything that you want to add about safety from the perspective of people who are walking and biking on these streets?
Well, in my perspective, I've been walking in Burlington for decades, actually. I used to walk to work in Winooski every day for years. My overall impression, and this is based on experience in walking in other cities as well, that overall, I think the city does a pretty good job in terms of walking safety. And I've felt that the folks at the city level have been very interested in pursuing things that make it a safer city for walking and biking. So at this point, I have complimentary things to say. And they are making progress. It may be slow at times, but they are making progress.
I have one item that the mention of pedestrian and bikes. I have a friend who lives just off one of the side streets off of Shelburne Avenue. She has poor eyesight. She can't drive. She takes a bus. She cannot walk from one side of Shelburne Street across to the other side to catch a bus between Lord knows where. This is an issue I would think would be for pedestrians.
We agree, and we are hoping to start a corridor study of Shelburne Street in the next year or two. Pedestrian crossings on a 4-lane road are very different than pedestrian crossings on a 3-lane road. On a 3-lane road, which is one travel lane in each direction and a center turn lane, can be done through those flashing rectangular rapid flashing beacons. If it's a 4-lane road, it has to be what's called a hawk signal, which is basically a traffic light for pedestrians because of the hidden car problem with 2 cars going the same direction. So we need to figure out long-term, once the parkway is opened up, Champlain Parkway, whether there'll be enough reduction of traffic on Shelburne Street to be able to go down to 3 lanes. If we can go to 3 lanes, we recognize there's a huge gap all the way from the roundabout down to Prospect Parkway with no crosswalks. That is unacceptable. If we were building a road today, we wouldn't have built it like that. But back in the 60s and 70s, when everything was all about roads, they didn't think about the pedestrian. So we've got to retrofit the road. We did that on North Avenue successfully. We've done that successfully on Colchester Avenue. We're looking at Battery Street, and we're trying to take all these 4-lane roads and right size them. And we have to do that right. So you're right, and we're going to get to it.
Okay. No other questions on traffic safety? We got a lot of good information and a lot of resources today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I have another question, Nancy.
Oh,
Tape, I have a question for you. The speed bumps on South Prospect Street, that was part of the traffic calming procedure in years past, or how did?
Yes, there were speed humps there, and then with the repaving, they got reinstalled.
Bigger ones.
Yes.
More noticeably now, though.
Yes, they're much more noticeable. We do coordinate with emergency services on their emergency response routes. If it's a high volume street, we're going to, for their emergency response, we're going to have smaller speed humps, but where they aren't as prevalent in terms of emergency response, or they have other routes to the high traffic destinations, we're able to get more aggressive with the height. And I will just say, if anybody is noticing a particular speeding problem and wants a speed radar feedback sign installed, they may not be the most effective tools, but they are a tool. We can move them around. So give us a call and request those.
Yes.
We have some.
Yes, we have about 10 of them,
Okay.
and we rotate them around the city as people request them.
We'll call you.
Yeah. Look at that. We
We'll
learned
forward you
something
our
today.
list.
All right, fair enough. We'll call.
Well, the great thing about those speed radar signs too is that every car that drives past them, it can data log what the speed is. So you get some good data around like, oh yes, this actually is a bad street. It doesn't have to have a person there with a gun trying to work out like, oh, every single car is going fast.
Right.
So they are good for they can log that data without the sign being on too. So, you can kind of put it out for a couple of weeks, get some initial data, and then you can turn on the, hey, you're going 28 and get some feedback on it. So there are some cool things to do with that. And I do think that, yeah, you got about 3 or 4 weeks where people notice them and then they become road noise and they get ignored after that. So moving them around is a great
Why
idea.
we move them around. So
Excellent.
thanks for the opportunity to talk about this stuff, and please do reach out to us. I think we are struggling to tame behavior. It's an engineering angle, it's an enforcement angle.
Right. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think Sarah's gonna stay for us. I have a child at home that I need to eat dinner to, so I appreciate.
Only have a couple more hours of
space here.
Thank you. Okay, so our next item is James Patrick DeFore and Steve Kedrell on the development project at 253 South Union Street. You're on the line? Hi. James, are you muted?
Yeah,
Great.
how are you? Should I share my screen or should somebody, I haven't zoomed in so long. Oh, there we go. Delightful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So Steve Cradell could not make it tonight, so I am going to hopefully stand in his shoes. He's much more charismatic than I am. But this is a project at 251, 253 South Union Street. We purchased this property in 2022. At the time, it was a law firm. We converted it into 8 all-electric, energy-efficient market rate apartments. Here's the picture of the site. And we take the next slide. Here is a street elevation of the property. It is a Natural Historic Register certified property, and we did comply with all of the historic requirements when we did the renovation. But we will be making no changes to the street-facing elevations as part of this project. Next slide. The lot previously was split into RL and RM districts. Recently, the neighborhood zoning code changed, which is what inspired us to expand this project a little bit. Next slide. We previously, about a year ago, permitted this addition as an expansion of the historic building. And this next phase, we didn't start this addition yet. We plan on starting it later on, but because of construction costs throughout the post-pandemic era and the chaos that ensued, we got delayed. But we're doing a very similar project, just a little bit in the back as well. So the next slide, please. So here is a example floor plan of the historic structure on the right-hand side of the building. And the left-hand side has the previously approved floor plans for 5 townhouses, 2 bedrooms each, potentially finishable basement, living space, fairly modest in size, about 330 square feet footprint each side. Next slide. And here was the approved facades for that project. And you'll see that we repeat a lot of these architectural elements and keep the same style in this next part. Next slide. So in the planned unit development that we're talking about doing a very similar 8 units in the back flagstaff of this property. It'll be accessed via the existing route from the road, and we will place appropriate about 1 parking space per unit of parking in the back as well. Next slide. And here are the facades, this slide and the next slide. You see we keep with the repetition of the previous building with some generous light windows facing south and fairly conservative siding. And here are some 3D renderings of the project. There is not a landscaping plan yet, but we plan on stepping the yards down as they go down this slope, but that slope is shown as the natural slope. And that's it. And I have a crying child, but I'm happy to answer any questions or respond to any feedback.
Hi, my name is Sheila Jacobs, and my family owns the property at 237 Maple Street, which is adjoining your property. And it's yeah, so at the top left-hand quarter of this page, the long property to the right of your cursor
Okay.
is 237 Maple.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was wondering what someone would do with the property that you have. And so here it is. I was excited to get the mailer. I was like, oh, I'm wondering if, because I didn't know who to connect with. There are some trees that look like that are overhanging the south side of our building that appear, although I'm not positive, appear to come from your property, that right around where it looks like you plan some parking. And
Yeah,
so
there's a
those
fairly
come
lot
down,
there.
which I would be happy to see.
Excellent.
Yeah, I took some pictures for you. So I don't, there's a fence that goes along there, a stockade fence, and I'm not sure who put up the fence. That building was built in 1986. And my father was in charge then. I'm not sure who, if that's your fence or our fence, or if that's the property line. Do you have any idea?
I have looked at that fence. I believe that fence is, I mean, it pre-existed my purchase of the property. As you can see, we plan on landscaping a walkway, and I think we want this property to look fairly nice. We will be taking care of those trees. And
Okay.
I'm certainly happy to talk to you about what specific details that are incorporated along our property boundary. And if we can work beneficially and
Yeah.
together to make it beautiful, then I think we should do
Yes,
that.
I'd love that. I'd
Excellent.
love to connect with you. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Charlie.
So Charlie here. So where is the water going to go and how fast?
The stormwater plan will be completed by Civil Engineering Associates. Dave Marshall is the person working on this project. What we've talked about and envisioned is taking the water from the building and taking off the eastern edge, and then doing a series of stormwater planters coming down the north side of building 2 and through the gardens on the south side of building 2 to ameliorate that.
So these are single shed roofs, like a single, in other words, no peak?
No, it's a flat roof or a gently angled.
Okay.
That leaves us a lot of flexibility to do, direct the water wherever we want. I think we're gonna take advantage of that. I really like the stormwater landscaping that's been put into place by the city, and I want to kind of mimic some of those elements of concrete stormwater gardens and things of that nature that are both beautiful and functional without putting in a stormwater pond that could be a mosquito threat or et cetera, et cetera.
Any other questions for James? Seeing none, thank you very much, James, for coming.
All right. If anybody has any future questions or comments, or any butters want to work with us to, do something beautiful, we're happy to talk and organize and collaborate.
What would be the best contact for that?
My email address is jdo4@gmail.com. I don't think that's publicly in the meeting notes, but I don't know the best way to share that. I could just chat it.
Okay.
I don't know. Dale has my email address.
Okay,
Yeah, I can
Great.
provide it.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, and Sheila, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Have a great night. I'm going to attend to a 1-year-old who's very teething right now.
Okay, next on the agenda is Melinda Moulton, Burlington History and Culture Project. Melinda is also online.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Melinda. Thank you for being here.
Listen, thank you for inviting me. So what I wanted to share with you today, briefly, I don't want to take up a lot of your time, is that I've been working with Elise Guyette and Gail Rosenberg and Lisa Evans on a conceptual Burlington History and Culture Center. And this Elise Guyette and Gail Rosenberg for many years had these history tours that were focused around food. I don't know if y'all remember. And Elise Guyette is a historian, and she's on the board of the Rokeby. And she and Gail came up with this concept of doing, there's not really a history center in Burlington. And they wanted to be, and we wanted to be not a history necessarily, but also a culture center. So when I left Main Street Landing a couple of years ago, Elise approached me and she said, look, we'd love to have you join us as a founding member of this project. Basically because they said I could get things done. I don't know so much about that, but anyway, I was very honored. So I joined them as a founding member. And so for the last year, 16 months, we have been creating a nonprofit called the Burlington History and Culture Center. We have a website that we're working on right now. It's temporary, but it's Burlington History A&D Culture Center. In our name, it's an ampersand, but in the website, it's an A&D. And on there's a survey, if any of you want to go into and fill out the survey that we're asking folks to fill out. So we've been doing a lot of work in the background to promote we call it BHCC. And one of the reasons we want to do it is to bring a center back to Burlington where we can be proud of our history, but not the history of the big shots that made stuff happen, the big names, the railroad barons and the ship, captains and all the big shot developers and with big names. We want it to be about the people who were the ones who were on the ground, really making Burlington the city that it was, going back 200 years, and talking about the masons and the quilters and the builders and, some of the people, the quiet politicians, the people who helped to bring the city to where it is now. And there's a great story about a woman, and if Elise was here, she'd be able to tell you more history stories than I can. But there's this, they met with the Association for the Blind, and they learned about a woman in the 1920s who was blind, and she would walk. She's the one who sort of invented using a seeing eye dog and also using the white cane. And they gave her an office in City Hall, and she would walk from her home in the Old North End to City Hall, where she would educate people and work with people about their sight disadvantages. And that's the kind of stories we want to tell. Who were some of the really incredible people who were never hailed? So we don't have a physical space. We don't even know if we will. Maybe we'll set up pop-ups in retail spaces. We don't know. This is the initial phase of going out to the public, and we're meeting with probably 35 different groups, from politicians to the LGBTQ to people of color, the indigenous, all sectors, lawyers and builders and of these groups that we're putting together and creating these forums. And there's usually 10 or 20 in the group. And then we meet for about an hour or two, and we ask them questions. They talk about what their favorite museums are. And we're taking notes about everything we're learning from these hundreds and hundreds of people we're going to meet with. And then in a year to 18 months, we're going to put together some kind of a plan of what this thing should look like based on what we've learned from the citizens of Burlington. So hence, we're meeting with all the wards to let them know that we're doing this. And I guess that's about it. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you.
Any questions? It sounds really interesting and exciting what you're working on, and you want to, we'll encourage people to take the survey.
That would be so great to do that. And also, if anybody wants to participate in a forum, we're doing them in person and on Zoom. They should just reach out to me. My email is melindamoultonvt@gmail.com. And we'd love to sign them up for a forum. We'll come back to you as things progress to give you an update on how this thing is moving along. And we've actually raised close to $40,000 for this first phase to get us through this reaching out, because we're giving stipends to people who come to the forum, helping to pay for people's transportation and like that. So we really want this to be a ground up creation for the city of Burlington.
Yes, it sounds like a wonderful idea, Melinda, and I want to keep track of it and take part maybe in the future. Robin Lloyd.
Hi, Robin. Hi, how are you, my dear? So good to see you. Well, I would love that. I'd love all of you to participate. So thank you for your time, and just let people know that this is happening, and we'll be back in touch with you.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Okay. So next, we wanted to have some votes on spending our NPA funds. We need to wrap this up before the close of the fiscal year for the city. We don't have a quorum. Oh, we don't have a quorum.
So I'll make a proposal, though, that we get input from the Ward 6 residents who are here. And then the steering committee can take that input and can make decisions given where we are in the fiscal year. I understand that we have authority as a steering committee to make decisions, but we would love to get input from any Ward 6 people who are here so that we can make a best informed decision.
Okay. Great. So I'll just run through these and see if anybody has any questions. The first one was a motion to purchase 2 5-gallon pails of graffiti removal, the world's best graffiti coating material. And this was going to be used by Art So Wonderful. For anybody who was at May's meeting, we heard a discussion about Art So Wonderful and their work in Burlington with removing graffiti and protecting murals from graffiti.
How does it work that it's the world's best? How does it?
This was recommended.
Is it covering or removing or?
Well, they have a variety of products. They have products that remove graffiti. This is actually a coating. And this was a product that Art So Wonderful currently uses. And that's what they had specified would be the greatest need. I should mention that when we actually researched getting this from a local vendor, the cost is higher than what we had in the agenda. It would actually be $900 for 2 5-gallon pails of graffiti removal. It's a lot of money, but it's not a toxic product. So that was something they stressed. They want to use something that's environmentally friendly and safe for people to use. And it's also a consideration for the types of buildings where we have murals, that they're
older buildings and you need a specific product for those types of materials. So Charlie?
So that type of paint, so can you use it? Can you use like 1 quart of it and then reseal it and then use it again 2 months later? And
I don't know what the longevity is, but it's not, you don't have to use it in one shot.
so it could last like a year or two, possibly. Okay. Thank you.
Blow through them pretty quick in that group.
Is there a plan for the graffiti removal funded by this purchase to be done in Ward 6? Because when I saw this, my question was, I've never seen a graffiti in Ward 6. I mean, maybe there are.
So we had some discussion about that and the steering committee had some discussion about that. And we wanted to ask people in the ward if they identified any graffiti. But we also felt that it's a benefit to greater Burlington.
Right. I'm not like, I was just, kind of curious about that. I guess that kind of leads into my next question, which is, I don't really have a problem with any of the proposals here, especially considering we need to spend the money. But just wondering whether there were any other proposals made to the steering committee or by the steering committee, in addition those here that we could consider, or is this kind of the totality of what the ideas have come forward? And I ask this as someone who did not bring ideas forward, and admittedly, maybe could have done some more work on that, but that's my question.
We did have other ideas and we talked about them at the last meeting. I mean, one idea, we talked about doing something like a community event, involving like a barbecue. I don't remember if that was our exact recommendation. And the feedback we got was that people were not in favor of doing that. Now,
I suppose it's the kind of thing that depends on folks' energy. So,
right. So, definitely want ideas for next year. But these are all the ideas that the next one was, and I don't have one with me tonight, but last year, Ward 1 worked on developing a little comic magazine.
It was actually all words. Like it was a all words project.
It was an all words project. Thank you, Fosca.
I have one here.
Oh, great. Thank you. And we also have a digital version. And this was really posters. This was to promote the MPAs and outreach. And we created it in multiple languages. And so last year we contributed to producing this material and we wanted to contribute an additional $300 this year for additional publication. And then the final motion was to spend $420 to buy NPA stickers, which would also be used for outreach and promoting the NPAs. And this would be used specifically at the city's Juneteenth event, but it could be used at other events as well. So any feedback on those ideas, yay or nay? Yes, Peter.
So what's the total budget for these ideas? If I add them all up together, it's 1420. Is that what
Yeah, 1420.
Is that the budget we have for next year for funding?
No, it's not even the budget we had for this year was $3,000. We've already spent 60. Less than 60. Yeah, we're not big spenders. So we're not exhausting our budget.
But you have no idea what the funding will be for next year. I mean, you're looking for ideas
Oh.
for next year, but we don't know what the funding level is.
The funding level would be 3,000. Yeah.
likely the same.
Yeah, most likely the same. Yeah. So we wanted to be judicious in our spending and do it for things that we thought would make a difference. And the goal of the funding is to do things that enhance community engagement and promote the NPA in achieving the goals of the NPA.
I think we'll take it under advisement.
So just to remind people, so the thing is on July 1st, you're getting another round. So if your budget next year is 3,000, that's becoming available. You don't have to wait until the last week of the year to spend your money. It's probably better to start thinking about it pretty soon.
Yes, as soon as your next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do we have a list of what the other wards are allocating their funds for?
We don't have a list, but it ranges. Well, for one thing, one ward has to pay for their meeting space. So that's one way that they need to use their money. Wards have food a lot of times. Some wards have bought equipment. Some wards have bought additional microphones, things like that. So I don't know, Fosk, if you've had any creative ideas from other wards?
Yeah, I mean, I can just speak to it a little, I guess. Generally, most of the NPAs do community dinner, community meal of some sort. So that's part of their funds go towards that. Different equipment, either for those community meals or for running the NPA meetings. So like some cordless microphones recently, this outreach comic, or some wards put together mailers that they've sent out or are sending out to help spread the word about the NPA, posters as well, new lawn signs, because a lot of the current lawn signs across the city have the previous map, and with the new redistricting, they're trying to update those signs. So those are some of the ways that they've been using the money. Other wards have been using money, yeah.
Yeah, Old North End of Ramble, an NPA funded project.
Sorry?
The Ramble Street Festival in Old North End, like Decatur Street. For some reason, I was under the impression that was an NPA supported project.
They haven't financially contributed to that.
Okay.
Yeah. At least this fiscal year. So like from July 1st, 2023 to now.
And as far as food, we have in the past provided food prior to the meeting, and it didn't seem to be that big of a draw. Mostly the steering committee came and ate dinner, and then we had the meeting.
But if anybody would like us to revive that, we certainly can talk about it.
Yeah.
You mentioned a quorum. How do you determine a quorum?
Our quorum is 10 members.
Oh, wow. Well, a long way to go. And I have to admit, I am an outsider. I seem to relate more to this ward than to Ward 8, which is where I'm meant to be.
Okay, well,
But you send me notices and Ward 8 doesn't send me anything, so I end up being here.
well, you're welcome to be here. We
Well-
have a lot in common with Ward 8.
Yes, it's just the wrong side of Maple Street I'm on.
All right, well, the steering committee will regroup on this. But I'm not hearing any violent opposition. So unless there's any other comments or questions, I think we are adjourned. We're adjourned until